What is going on, YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the debut album by Rich Brian. Basically, this album is called Amen, and it came out in the winter of 2018. So Rich Brian used to go underneath the name Rich Chiga, and he dropped a series of singles in the mid-late 2010s and stuff. Songs like That Stick and some of that type of stuff. He underwent a name change in early 2018, became Rich Brian, and then dropped this album. He had a big promotion. He was a SoundCloud rapper. He did a bunch of internet stuff throughout like the late 2010s. He's kind of about the same age as like Trippy Red and folks like Juice World and some of those type cats. It's interesting. I wanted to see what some more of this stuff is about. I need to start reviewing more stuff from like I want to see what this project is about. I need to start reviewing some stuff that's from folks from a few years younger than me and that type of stuff. Cyan has reviewed this project. He gave it a pretty high score a few months or a year ago. This across the past good while he reviewed this project. He liked it pretty well. So I want to see what's up with it. Just for more of like younger cats that are still kind of in their mid 20s and late 20s and early 20s and that type of stuff. Just to mess with some of this, so I'm not completely out of touch with like trendy stuff that's been going on across the past 5, 6, 7 years or such. So I'm going to see what's up with this. Basically, I do like this album quite a bit. I agree with Cyan as far as saying that this is a pretty hit project. It definitely seemed like it was pretty litty back in 2018 and such, and carries a lot of energy. Now, it seemed like his second album, The Sailor, didn't quite chart as heavily as this album, and I don't know if Rich Brian's name change had him have a personality switch, but I really feel like his antics on this album are not really so much gentleman-like and have a bunch of decorum anyways. It's not to say that he's a rascal and that type of stuff, but just the concept that if folks thought he kind of cleaned up his image and was a lot more punctual and that type of stuff, there's very much a lot of like rowdy kind of songs on here where Rich Brian had said even about this album that he was kind of going for more of like a punctual kind of angle. I mean, there is some stuff on there, but there is quite a few moments just for being prolific and that type of stuff as far as having an edgy kind of vibe about it. There is some trap on here. There is some cloud rap on here. There is some stuff. There's some stuff like that Casey Veggies and Frank Ocean type do, some of that type stuff. So there's a good assortment of stuff on here. It's very relevant. It reminds me of stuff that Juice World did with his Goodbye and Good Riddance album from 2018. It's very similar to that. There's a song on here that reminds me of MGK's Bad Things, which is pretty dope. I like that song. So it's just got some trendy stuff for like the late 2010s. It kind of feels odd that this album is kind of half a decade old. This is the concept of saying, oh, this is kind of over the hill. But I don't think this album's over the hill. I think it still has a lot of vitality towards it. It's just an overall hit project that carried some life into the late 2010s, and it should still carry some strong energy as it goes overall now. So I just would have to say there were three singles with this project, and the first one was Glow Like That. And this one's a pretty Glow Like That is the first single. This is like a sleepy ladies track. It's a very dreary kind of late day malaise type tune. Definitely gives me some Juice World vibes, and it just feels like a pop rap kind of hit. It just is not the kind of it's not the kind of expected type tune that I thought Rich Brian would have kicked off this album with. It's interesting that this was the first single that kind of kicked off the promotion from it, because this is so lazy, kind of sleepy. It just reminds me of stuff that like Lil Peep and like Juice World and some of those type cats were doing around that time. Just very kind of more cloud pop rap type XXX Temptation. Now I kind of remember how to say his name, but XXX Temptation was kind of one of those cats that was kind of like that, and it just gives me some Juice World type vibes. It's very kind of dreary kind of tune. It's interesting that like Rich Brian had that. It's interesting that Rich Brian kind of had like this dreary kind of late day malaise just right off the bat. He was doing this when he was like 17, 18, and that type of stuff as far as that kind of goes. Because a lot of these songs just feel like the typical kind of sunsetted kind of sky out, where it's just orange and pink and purple outside, and it's just kind of a good song to kind of feel the cool breeze in the wind and that type of stuff, and just smoke a blunt, that sort of thing, as far as that kind of goes, just within the late day malaise, as far as that kind of context kind of went. It's just an easy kind of after hours kind of cut. I mean, it's not even, doesn't even have to be just an after hours in the car kind of cut, but just an after hours, just appreciating sunsets and some of those type vibes. It's just kind of like a makeshift kind of tune, but it's pop rap. That's this kind of thing. It's a good hit single for that. Just a good sleepy ladies tune. Chaos is the second single, and this is a pretty good one also. I like all three of the singles on here, but Chaos is very much a slinky kind of electro type song. It's definitely good for a good smoke session and good after hours kind of hangout song, I feel like. Yeah, Chaos is like a very slinky kind of song, very electro kind of distorted type tune where you've had quite a few blunts, something like that. Just a very good smoke session for as far as that kind of goes. It's a great hangout song, good song to kind of have in the after hours, just as far as like kicking it and just being lazy, cooking frozen pizzas, that type of stuff, or just getting some KFC, some of those type moments as far as just kind of having like a pretty regular and typical kind of hangout type tune as far as that kind of goes. It's a great, just kind of fraternizing kind of tune. Definite highlight. See Me is the third single, and this one kind of brings it back to the makeshift kind of malaise of like Glow Like That, but it's just not as much of a ladies tune. It's actually kind of surprising that See Me is like the most presentable of the three singles, because this is the third single here. It's interesting that he kind of saved this song. This is actually a pretty good hit song here. It's a midday kind of malaise type tune, just a cruising around cut, and it's very workaday and regular. This is the sort of stuff that once again I feel like reminds me of XXXTentacion and Juice WRLD. Just some good vibes as far as that kind of goes. I look after it, just really kind of has like the typical kind of regular type feel towards it. This very kind of standard and that sort of stuff. Just a easy kind of pop rap tune that you probably heard on rhythmic kind of radio back in 2018, 2019 and stuff. Just very workaday and lackadaisical. I like the pace of it. This very pop rap-ish, just easy kind of crestability for like the charts in terms of like standard late 2010s fares. It's a good hit. Yeah, both Glow Like That and See Me are just overall good ones. They're pretty blue collar in terms of that sort of sense. Blue collar for the younger set is definitely one that you could hear if you like Beyonce and 50 Cent and Eminem and some of those type folks, but you kind of want something a little bit more contemporary and kind of more relevant to the times as far as that kind of goes. I feel like See Me is a good example. Glow Like That and See Me are some good examples of pop rap radio that just kind of has a good commercial blue collar chartability towards it. So there are 14 songs on this album, and out of those 14, I wound up liking 9 and recommending to you 9 plus 1 almost song. So that's quite a bit on here. So I'll go ahead and recommend those songs. So they would be Glow Like That, Attention, Chaos, Little Prince, See Me, Kitty, Trespass, Amen, and Enemies. And the Almost song is Occupied. So the reason why Occupied is the Almost song is I like this beat somewhat, and I kind of like this song for the most part. It's kind of like a twinkling kind of club type gem. It's definitely a stepping out night affairs kind of tune. It's very lively, but the beat just isn't as top tier as I'd like it to be. It kind of feels like a dark kind of twinkling lullaby type tune as far as that kind of goes. It just has like a real kind of watered down kind of beat, I feel like, in terms of that concept. I mean, it's a good one, but it's just not, it's kind of 6.5, 7 out of 10 quality in terms of like how sharp that it kind of is compared to some of these other ones on here. I mean, it's a good night tune. Definitely has like that kind of, it feels more like a pop rap kind of dark tune as far as that kind of goes, like dark pop rap, something like that. But this is kind of not as edgy as some of the other beats on here. I kind of feel like that concept about it. But I do like the song, but just not overly wholesomely. That's a good one. Probably some of the best songs on here. I like the kind of tune of Kitty. This is a real nice one. Kitty is like a vaporous like beat, and it's just kind of a smogged party cut for the Bellas out there, and this has a low-key jive towards it. It's just very much stepping out and just kind of weaving kind of through the city buildings, that type of stuff, just going out and about, finding some shindigs to get to and that sort of vibes. It's just very low-key in its approach towards it. It's just an overall nice one. And Lil Prince is another highlight. I feel like this is a good one. This is like a pop rap kind of ladies cut. This is like a good early day commute type song. Definitely for like mornings, 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning if you're an early bird and that sort of stuff. Just kind of a makeshift tune, kind of similar to Bad Things by MGK. Definitely has that kind of context about it. It's like a Rich Brian styled version of Bad Things by MGK. Just a real nice pop rap kind of morning commute kind of highlight. Just an overall good one. It's just so lazy and just kind of sleepy in the way it kind of goes, but it's just an overall highlight. I feel like Attention with Offset's another nice one. This is kind of another trap tune. Attention, this is like a leery trap tune. This has like some glaring late day malaise about it. It's kind of similar to Chaos, just a little bit lazier, and it's earlier in the evening. I feel like this is probably like 6:37 where you're not at work, you just got done, that type of stuff. You're just having a good time, getting ready to step out, but it's not quite the full-blown party-esque type cut that some of the craziness later gets, like Chaos and Kitty and some of those type tunes. But it is a good getting ready to pop off kind of tune. I definitely feel like this is a pretty suiting song. Offset has a nice cameo on here. Offset from Migos has a nice cameo on here. This is a good song to kind of Offset from Migos is on this song, and he translates well to this song also. This feels like another extension of like the type vibes that Migos was kind of on. It's good to get Rich Brian on some of these like trap highlights. He doesn't overtly do trap, but he kind of works pretty well on these Migos type tunes that they were so good at doing back in the late 2010s and stuff. So it does feel like kind of like a miniature Migos song, just without the other two members. Trespass is one of the best beats on this album. This is just a very looming, slick groove of a song. This has a real nice groove that it catches on this song. Just an easy kind of charismatic type tune on here. Nice glaring trap beat. This is an overall thumper. It's up there with Kitty and Chaos and Attention, some of the more kind of prolific kind of songs on here. Just an easy kind of highlighted one. It's just an easy kind of hit and just overall very catchy. Enemies is another song that's like that. It's just kind of turned down in the energy. I feel like Enemies is kind of like a trap tune, but it just kind of has more of like a lazy kind of stepping out kind of feel towards it. Just not as much of like a party tune, but just kind of a more boasting and kind of almost provocative, but just not quite overtly doing it. Just kind of saying, you know, I'm living good and fuck the ops kind of mindset as far as that kind of goes. Just has a good song palette. It's just an extra song about dodging ops as far as that kind of goes. It's kind of a fancy and graceful beat, and it's a good stepping out kind of tune as far as that kind of goes. Just not so much like a club hopping and bar hopping, pub crawling type tune, but just kind of one where you're just kind of weaving. Maybe you're just going out to a restaurant, getting some pasta, something like that, getting a hot dog, just getting some good food, just kind of paying some bills, getting caught up on things as far as that kind of goes. Just an easy kind of secondary kind of social kind of tune, but just not quite as raucous as like Chaos and Attention and Kitty and some of those type ones, and Trespass. It does have good context about it. Amen, the title track, which is also kind of the intro song, is like a nice get you pumped kind of song. Nice song to kind of give some goosebumps. It's kind of an appetizer for a big shindig, and it's just kind of a thumper. It just really has like a Middle Eastern kind of thump about it. Really kind of like one that this is one of the more outlandish beats on here. It's just an overall highlight. Just kind of lazy. Well, it's just kind of a relaxed and low-key kind of thumper on here, just the way it kind of works. But it is kind of one that's a very excitable song. This is kind of one that should get you pumped quite easily. It's just kind of got that vibe of just being a more, it's not so much like a full-blown crazy type tune like some of the more raucous party tracks on here, but it's definitely one that should give you that energy of just being in your car, getting ready to go some spot where the place is going to be hype and that sort of thing. It's just an overall kind of in-between kind of appetizer that does a good job of getting you excited and stuff. That's just some good ones. So yeah, those are the 9 songs out of 14 I enjoyed, and plus the almost song. So basically, talk about some of the songs I didn't enjoy, which was just 4 songs, which was just Cold, Introvert, Arizona, and then Flight. Which Flight and Arizona were just kind of like these more pop rap kind of down tempo type tunes that just didn't work as well. Like I do feel like Rich Brian is able to pull that sort of style off when he does songs like See Me and a little bit of like, I would say Rich Brian pulls off that more down-tempo type feel on the song like See Me, but somehow Flight and Arizona just didn't work that well. And it's the same thing with Cold. All 3 of those are just kind of ones where the tempo is kind of slowed down and kind of being a little bit more homely and just kind of has a little bit more food for thought on there that's just not quite as ready to step out in those kind of vibes. And I feel like it's good to get those. It's good that Rich Brian was kind of able to do it, but it just I couldn't see the context of like where I would listen to some of these songs. This is kind of, I just couldn't see the context of where I would listen to some of these songs. They're just kind of a lot more sluggish, and the pacing of these songs is a lot more sluggish than how I would feel fit to mess with them. So it's kind of the thing. And then Introvert was another one that's kind of like a more sluggish song. I mean, this was trying to be like a Frank Ocean and kind of more, yeah, Introvert was kind of another song that I just didn't enjoy that much. It was trying to be like a Frank Ocean and kind of Chance the Rapper type tune, just something with a lot more pop rap and kind of cloud rap kind of feel towards it. But I just didn't overall appreciate the vibe of it. I kind of feel like having a song, I mean, just the concept of introverted and that kind of stuff is just odd for like a topic as far as that kind of goes, because there's a lot of folks that, it seemed like a lot of folks on Spotify like this song quite a bit. It basically embellishes the concept, maybe not so much embellishes, but this kind of is, it may not be enthralled about being an introvert, but it kind of embellishes the concept about it, which is kind of an odd thing, just because for the most part, you know, the typical stepping out type vibe is, you know, extroverts and introverts tend to clash. So it just kind of has that vibe as far as that kind of goes. But I just didn't stick with that kind of vibe. I kind of feel like I liked Rich Brian on more songs like Attention and Trespass and Enemies and songs like that and Chaos and some of those type tunes. But I do like Rich Brian on some of his pop rap type tunes. Yeah, so that's just kind of the concept. I just feel like Rich Brian, when it comes to like these more, I feel like Rich Brian, when it comes to like these more down tempo and just kind of more homely type tunes, just needed more work. Just the compellingness. I don't feel like he quite has the rumination aspect of like NF and Eminem and Tech Nine down quite as much to have the more homely songs. Where the homely songs from Rich Brian just feel a lot more just kind of not doing much besides maybe playing video games or watching TV or Netflix or something like that. It just didn't have like as much of a compelling vibe. But I kind of look after it like I definitely feel like this pop rap, Juice World, and kind of XXX Temptation type feel that I would say that Rich Brian has some pretty good renditions of like some pop rap similar to Juice World and XXX Temptation. He does a pretty good job with some of those like kind of pop rap and kind of commercial 2010s rap type tunes of that particular time. And some of these more ferocious social cuts are actually pretty enthralling. They're definitely riveting considering that he wasn't old enough to drink at the time. And a lot of these just have like a lot of these have like a pretty feisty and compelling kind of time for that sort of concept. So these are pretty fun, nice little spark to kind of have for that sort of sense in terms of just like something if you're kind of wanting something a little bit more recent and relevant than the stuff of like Tech Nine and Eminem and like Tom McDonald and MGK and some folks that just for like a few years toned down but still quite ferocious enough to kind of have bite and just be hit rap music. It's just good rap music to kind of have in that concept. So I give this album I'm gonna give this album like an 8.5 out of 10. I liked it that much. It's really good. 9 out of 14 plus one almost song is pretty damn good. I would definitely have to say the social score. I'll go ahead and give the social score like a 9 out of 10 because all three of the singles hit. It was kind of like a page turner in like the style of like what 2010s rap and cloud rap was kind of doing around that time. So it definitely had that concept pretty well. I definitely like and respect the concept of that. Would have to say the social score. Lots of litty moments on here. Enemies, Kitty, Little Prince, Chaos, Trespass, Glow Like That, Attention, Occupied, some of these type ones, Amen, the title track, just chock full of songs that just kind of had the concept of just being able to step out and kind of have like a lively kind of vibe about it. It's just pretty sparky and relevant as far as that kind of concept kind of goes. Definitely good for cloud rap. And despite the fact that it's 5 years old, I think it still should be able to maintain some of its relevance, I would have to say. In terms of the future, like Rich Brian has dropped EPs. He hasn't dropped an album since 2019. It seems like maybe the spell of Rich Brian might have worn off. Not to say that he was just like a theme it or kind of meme rapper, just like kind of like a one hit wonder or something. But it's just odd that he hasn't really put out albums recently as far as that's kind of went. But he has dropped EPs, so we'll see what happens with them. But this is actually a pretty damn stellar project.